Some moments in our lives shift, not gradually, not slowly, but immediately, all at once. A door opens, a truth becomes clear, a courage rises where it wasn't there before, and then afterward, you can't quite return to what was. That's the moment we're stepping into in Acts chapter 2. The disciples are all together, they're waiting, they're not entirely sure what comes next. Jesus just ascended, and Jesus is no longer beside them in the way that he was, and they've been told that they need to wait for power from on high, which that's a beautiful phrase, but if you're standing on planet Earth, that's a very vague phrase. So they just gather. They're in a room with questions, with memories, with hope that feels a little fragile. And then wind, not a breeze, not a gentle stirring, a rushing, violent wind that fills the whole house. And then fire, not consuming, not destroying, but resting on each of them. Divided yet shared, personal yet communal. And then suddenly, they all begin to speak. Languages they didn't learn, words they had not prepared, a message that just spilled out from beyond their control. And the people gathered in the streets. They were from every nation, every background, and they all are hearing things, and it's astonishing because they're hearing words in different languages, but they're hearing it in their own language. Pentecost isn't quiet. It's not tidy. It's not controlled. It's the moment heaven refuses to stay contained. If Ascension last week tells us that Christ will fill all things, Pentecost shows us how. God's presence is filled through the gift of the Spirit. But let's be clear about what kind of presence this is. Because wind and fire, those can be frightening images. Wind can tear things apart. Fire can destroy. But here, something very different is happening. This wind is without chaos. The fire is without destruction. This is not God overwhelming. This is God indwelling. God's not forcing, not coercing, but filling, animating, awakening. There is a long history in Scripture of God drawing near to people. And we see them in very distinct images: a burning bush, a pillar of fire, a cloud by day. But always in these examples, God is just beyond reach. But now with Acts chapter 2, Pentecost changes that. The fire does not hover at a distance from people. It rests on them all. The wind does not just pass them by. It fills them all. The presence of God is no longer something to be approached carefully from the outside. It is now something that we all carry on the inside. And this is where it gets deeply personal for all of us. Because the miracle of Pentecost is not just that the disciples speak. It's that all the people understand. Everyone hears in their own language, not in one dominant voice, not in one imposed culture, but in the language that is their own. And they understand what others are saying in their language of their own. Pentecost doesn't erase differences. And I love that about Acts chapter 2. It honors the differences that we bring. And it weaves diversity into community. It's in many ways healing of an old wound. Back in the story of Babel in the Old Testament, humanity tried to build unity, but they did it by force. there was one language, one voice, one tower that would reach toward God, which is, it's very efficient if we all just speak the same language. But the Tower of Babel collapsed into confusion. But in Acts chapter 2, that whole narrative gets reversed. Humanity is not reaching up to God, but God is coming down to humanity. There's not one language for all. God has everyone speaking every language, and we all understand through this vessel of grace. This is such a good example of what the Spirit can do in this world and how the Spirit moves in this world. The Spirit meets people with the history they bring to the moment. It speaks in the texture of our lives. It whispers in the dialect of our experience. You don't have to leave your story behind and adopt someone else's to experience God. God meets you within it. And yet, there is something else happening here too. Because when the Spirit fills all the people, the disciples don't stay in the house. They move outward into the streets, into the noise, into the unpredictability of real life happening out there. Pentecost is not just meant to be an internal experience. It's meant to be taken outward. The Spirit does not come to comfort the individual only. The Spirit comforts, but then sends. Peter stands up, and Peter, who once denied even knowing Jesus, and begins to speak with a kind of clarity and courage that I would imagine even surprises him. He reaches for the words of the prophet Joel. In the last days, God declares, I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. All flesh. Not just a few, not just the qualified, not the ones that are already certain. All sons and daughters, all young and old, all dreamers and visionaries. Pentecost is a radically inclusive moment. The Spirit is not scarce at all. It is abundant. And maybe that's the word that I think we all need to hold and hear. Because I think many of us have taught, and it's quiet and maybe it's explicit. We have been taught that God's presence is something very rare. It's something reserved, something that you have to earn. It's something you have to prove yourself worthy for to experience. Acts chapter 2 says the exact opposite. The Spirit is not earned. It is given freely, generously, without precondition, and it falls on everyone. This is what Pentecost is trying to tell us. The Spirit of God is not a reward for the spiritually elite. The Spirit is a gift. It is a presence. It is a breath given to every one of us. Think about those moments when something in you comes alive unexpectedly. A compassion that you didn't plan to have in that moment. A wisdom that you had not had before that moment. A strength that meets you right when you need it. Not because you worked it up, but because it just arrived. Where does that come from? This is something like what the Spirit does for us. It comes from the indwelling, and it comes out into the world. It's not imposed from the outside. It rises from within. I love being in a room a lot like this sanctuary. And I really love it when we're all together and we're all singing just like we were. At first, I think when a room sings, it's just voices at first. They're all very separate. They're all kind of uncertain. Are we clapping? Are we not clapping? Do we need to stop clapping? Maybe some of us are a little hesitant at first to really open up and to sing ourselves, so we just kind of look around the room. No one person is controlling that moment. But what I love about it is everyone is a part of it. And you can feel the moment the room moves. Is there shared energy? And I love that phrase, the room moves. It's hard to explain, but it's a collective moment, a breath, a sense that something has now moved through us, and it's now coming from us. Pentecost is just like that, except deeper, holier, more alive. And here is the quiet truth. The same Spirit that filled that room in Acts chapter 2 is filling this room today. That same Spirit is still speaking in you. It's still breathing life in you. It's not just in churches, not just in sacred spaces. It's in every conversation, in every act of courage, in every moment of grace, in every quiet decision to love when it would be easier to not. So the question is not, has the Spirit come? Pentecost answers that. The Spirit most definitely has come. The question then becomes, are you going to make room for it? Will you listen for the language around you? Will you listen for the stories, the voices, the lives that are different from your own? Will you trust that God is already speaking there? And will you allow yourself to be moved beyond what you can predict? Because when the Spirit moves, things change. Walls soften. Fear loosens its grip. And people who once stayed hidden step forward into the light. It's not perfect, it's not complete, but it's true. If Ascension told us that Christ fills the world in a new way, Pentecost shows us that this presence is no longer remote or distant. It is within us, among us, between us, like breath, like fire, like a voice calling us into something larger than ourselves. It is high and holy, but it's not far away. It's closer than we imagined, and it's alive in every language of love.